welcome to the season finale of Hitting the Headlines with me, the headline maker, Kurt Cooper. WrestleMania week has finally ended after what seemed like an eternity. We've got a lot to unpack on this week's show from that. We're going to look at the highs, the lows, the bits in the middle, the most entertaining bits. We're going to change up the format a wee bit as well. We also may have some former guests popping in and jumping back out. I've sent an invite to a variety of different people to see if they want to take part in this evening's podcast. And if they do, then they're more than welcome to do so. So I don't really know who's going to be coming, but I do know that our two main guests this evening are going to be two regulars to the show. That's going to be Eli Fox and Diamond Craig DL. They have been stalwarts throughout this run of Hitting the Headlines. They've been with me every step of the way, supporting me, making sure that the podcast could get to that achievable 300 listens before WrestleMania. And guys, how are you fellas? Great to see you.
Hey.
I'm rough as toast, mate. I'm not going to lie. A 35-year-old with 3 kids, and I was out till like 2 a.m. last night. It's just stupid. I had no business being there.
Personally, I blame the kids for keeping you up, Craig. Just saying.
Getting at 2 a.m, and I was sitting there going, I've had a fucking great night. And then I looked at my phone and I was like, I'll be up in 4 hours with at least one of them. So yeah, you know, I'm amazed that I've managed to make it to this time. Really, I was considering doing an Ultimate Warrior and just no showing.
Don't do that. Don't do no showing. I'm so glad that you're here to celebrate the season finale of Hitting the Headlines.
Yes!
Whoa!
We are.
Woo!
Pint of Jack and Coke, let's go.
I went to Asda and spent £4 on that, and not one of the wee streamers actually fell into shot. Brilliant. But I was just explaining in the intro there, guys, I have sent an invite out to a load of different people to come and join us on this week's podcast. So it's up to them if they do or if they don't. So we might get some run-ins to steal a slot off a very popular Scottish wrestling podcast.
A Lumberkirk match.
A what? A Lumberkirk match?
Lumberkirk match. That's what it is.
That is a fantastic idea.
As long as it's no Enzo, man, his crack is absolutely lifting.
Well, we'll see who comes up.
He doesn't have any crack.
He's honestly.
We will see who turns up.
You bring one of the interpreters at the bottom of the screen on the edit, didn't you?
Just cover the screen. Speaking of people who didn't turn up, Paul London, as we know, did not show for last week's podcast. Didn't manage to get him on, unfortunately, but he did send a text to say that he was sorry for patching us on a WhatsApp exchange. So I'm gonna annotate that just now for you. So I had sent him a message saying, "Hi Paul, if you're still interested in doing an interview this week, I'd be happy to talk with you tomorrow. If you're free, just let me know either way. Cheers." Thumbs up emoji. 9 hours later, he messaged back, "Holy shit, man, I've been so scattered and fucked. I'm sorry, I totally missed. I'm working on a big audition, but would love to do the interview. God damn it, time snuck up on me, haha." To which I was very gracious. I went back to him and said, "It's no worries, fella. Life gets in the way when you're making other plans and all that. No harm done." And then to his credit, he came back and said, "I feel awful. What a shit bird. Let's make it work. We'll totally make it up to you and everyone who missed out." And there's the, I don't know if you can actually see that there. That's my wife on the back of the thing there. Yeah, that's the text exchange that we had. So yeah, he's wanting to do it. He is wanting to do it, but we just couldn't make it work this time. So yeah, thanks for getting back to me, Paul, if you're actually listening to this. But yeah, it was disappointing not to get him on, but Emily Hayden was really good last week, and she helped to deliver the highest viewed YouTube episode of the season. So
I demand a recount.
I entirely debate that. Like, you can't have 2 goddamn Adonises week in and week out and us not get credit for the views. Like,
well, you know what, you guys, as I said when I was giving you your intro, you guys have been stalwarts. So I'm very thankful that you guys have been on with me through thick and thin through this season. And if we get a season 2, then I hope to see a lot more of you. But we're going to crack on with the actual wrestling chat now. So usually we would do the 3 headlines and all that malarkey, but there's far too much is going on over WrestleMania week for us to break that down into just 3. So, as it's the season finale, what better time than to change the format of the podcast completely? And I am going to go from being the headline maker to being the editor. We are going to make our own newspaper with the best stories, the worst stories, and everything in between from WrestleMania week. So earlier on, I asked you guys to come up with your moments of WrestleMania week, and we're going to make I'm going to make the judgment call as to what stories go on what pages of the newspaper that we are making. So first of all, we need the front page. We need the story from WrestleMania week that caught the attention the most and made the biggest headlines. So come to you, Eli Fox, first. What would be your front page for the WrestleMania themed newspaper this week?
For me, it would just be the fact, the presence of a live crowd. Like, by far, that the first time in over a year, any wrestling, they've had scatterings of people here and there with NXT and the cages and the dome and stuff, but actually seeing a live crowd, it makes you can live vicariously through that crowd when we're watching Mania. The crowd makes it, and for me, just seeing, we're going to have, 20-something thousand fans, and you're sitting going, like, what was it, WrestleMania 20 had about 20,000 fans, so you're sitting going, this is a WrestleMania level of 10. For me, it was just seeing fans again and seeing people pop, and then I could pop with them, and it was the involvement again. You feel more involved when you feel you're part of the crowd.
Cool.
So
cool.
front page, crowd's back.
What would your headline be? If you were the sub editor, what would you be making that headline?
Back in black, because when you looked out, it was just a sea of people wearing merch, and it was class. Back in black, boom, light up.
Good one.
Did you see the guy? Did you see the guy that get kicked out on night 1?
No.
The guy that get kicked out on night 1 because of the rain delay. Because of the rain delay, the guy was booting off because it was like whatever delay it was. It was absolutely kicking off, and then he started decapitating the cardboard cutouts around him. so security came and they're like, "What's the problem, sir?" And he's like, "Rah," and they just huckled him out. And then it started 2 minutes later, and everybody around about was going mental. I
told you it was Taker. People go, Taker's not going to be at Mania. Man just was backstage just doing that. It was lightning and everything. But yeah, back in black, front page, we've had our first big ass live crowd at Mania. Class.
Magic. Right, Diamond Craig Dale, this is your chance to steal the front page from Eli Fox. What would be your headline from WrestleMania week?
Right. See, I thought he's went obscure there, and I was going to go obscure as well because everybody will be thinking about a match. See, for me, it was the Hall of Fame, right?
Aye.
The Hall of Fame. I thought this year, because obviously there was 2 years worth, right? But there was 2 notable ones that were incredible for me. RVD, like the interactions that he had with Matt Riddle. I don't know if you've seen Matt Riddle on the bump with him. But Matt Riddle on the bump with him, he's like, "Oh my God, it's RVD, come on, man, come on, bro." And they're like, "Ah," and he's comparing hand sizes and stuff like that. And it was just like, he's like marking out. And I thought that was just like a really, really cool thing because like, you really see wrestlers doing that. But the biggest thing for me at the Hall of Fame was JBL's speech. And I thought that was the highlight of Mania Week for me was JBL because the speech, if you watch the speech, they obviously didn't give them as much time, but he went through all of his own characters in his speech. You could tell the transition. You're like, he's the Justin Hawk Bradshaw, and then he's the APA, and then he's JBL, and then he's JBL, the wrestling god. And when he did that at the end about, when he referenced the bullying and the backstage antics that have dogged him for years, and he was just like, he thought, he's going to redeem himself. He's going to apologize or whatever. And he just was like, "You can wipe your tears because I am a wrestling god." And I just thought, because you've not seen JBL on WWE TV for so long, and I think it is because of the hazing and the rituals and his persona backstage that they just thought, you know what, in this day and age, he's not welcome. And it was just nice and refreshing. Like he started off as a face. He ended up as the biggest heel, and he's in the Hall of Fame. So that was my moment for Mania Week was JBL getting in the Hall of Fame.
So I need to choose what's going to lead the paper. Is it going to be JBL in his Hall of Fame speech. Oh, sorry, what would your headline be for that, Craig? What would your headline be for JBL?
Do you know what? Just the wrestling god, just the wrestling god. The wrestling god would just be it. That would just be the headline, wrestling god.
No worries. I am going to make the editorial judgment on that, and I am going to give the front page on this occasion to Eli Fox. Eli, I think you are right. I think the fans being back helped make WrestleMania weekend, and even though some of them have ended up contracting COVID and going about all the other indie shows that were going on, as was to be expected, I think a lot of WrestleMania this year wouldn't have hit home as hard or hit home as well without the crowd being there. So Eli Fox, you take that front page. Now, from the front page to the back page is where all the sport happens. So for the back page on this newspaper, what would be the in-ring thing that should be emblazoned in that back page that all the virgins in their basements flip to eagerly when it comes through their door when their mum still pays for it? You can start this one.
Future Hall of Famer, The Miz and John Morrison versus Bad Bunny and Damian Priest. That's the biggest sporting achievement, right? Bad Bunny, like me last night, going out in the piss on a school night, he had absolutely no business being in a wrestling ring, right? But boy, did he show up. Like, I read afterwards that he'd been training since December. And, you know, like, we've seen this in crossovers before, like Tyson Fury putting in the work in the ring for the show and all that sort of stuff. But from what I understand, Bad Bunny was doing like 5 days a week at the Performance Centre since December just to get ready for it. And it showed in some of the spots that he hit. And, you know, when he did the diving crossbody, you know, all I could think of was Snoop Dogg and the differences, you know.
Yeah.
Like, that's all I could think of. And it was just like two rappers doing the same thing. One of them put his heart and soul in. The other one was just there for the, I was going to say just for the crack, but it's mostly for the weed for him, wouldn't it be?
It was.
But yeah, that would be my sort of sporting achievement. Either that or Vince McMahon's Botox.
Vince McMahon's Botox. That would maybe be in somewhere in the middle, maybe page 17, something like that.
Right.
But your back page, Bad Bunny, Miz, Morrison, and Damian Priest as well. Cool. Yeah. Eli, what would your back page be?
It was a wrestling heavy week and a lot of athleticism stuff going on from Stand and Deliver, Takeover. But for me, what popped me was Cesaro and Rollins, because I love the whole he's never had a singles WrestleMania match, and it was like it kind of linked in with Mick Foley's documentary about Edge, where he was like he's never had that WrestleMania moment. You're like, can Cesaro do a full match, do it himself? It was just wrestling. You had Seth being the character, and also we know Cesaro's not the best talker, but by fuck did he go full on. He went wrestling machine. It reminded me of Kurt Angle at his peak in SmackDown when he was doing the big show in the Shield, just full on wrestling machine. I think there's one where he's on the apron and he pulls himself up over the apron, rolls, catches him in the neutralizer, and then Seth reverses it, and then he just flips around again. And I'm like, you have to realize the athleticism that man possesses. Get him a mouthpiece and give him the title. Went after Bobby's had to give him, but whatever, we'll get into that. But Cesaro and Rollins as a pure wrestling match entertained the life out of me.
It was probably the purest wrestling match of the weekend. You know, I would say to you earlier in the week, Eli, I thought that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, the match that they put on, if you take Logan Paul out of the equation, that's the type of match I want to be having. I want to get to the level where I've got that kind of chemistry, that kind of trust in my opponent, all that sort of stuff. But I think from a pure wrestling point of view, Cesaro v Rollins, just amazing. My only criticism of it would be, it was too short. It was too short.
What tipped it for me was it wasn't flashy wrestling. It had just the nice balance of holy shit, this is impressive, but it's still wrestling. So it had that, for me, it had that lovely level of athleticism meets wrestling meets storytelling, where Kevin and Sami, endless entertainment every time they row. But for me, it was the purity of Cesaro showing. Then at the end, when he just knows, fine, right, he say a word and I'll break you in half. I'm talking. At the end, when he says that, you know, you can see the look in his face as if he kind of went, I've just done a singles match. People went mad. And you felt for him. It wasn't the title, but you loved it. And that's what put it over. That's what put it over for me.
The big thing about that match, because I had that mentioned later on, is one of the sort of the watch again matches, right? But like the big thing I loved about it was Seth Rollins. Not only was he playing, complete bastard heel, right, but he was channeling his inner Santino Marella. Hey, Cesaro! It was just like little things like that, like it was class. It was class. Like because he knew that he had to carry it from a promo perspective. Yeah. Like Cesaro was never going to contribute from a promo perspective, and Seth Rollins was just like, right, this is why I need to show that I am the shoulders of the company, So yeah, that was a fantastic match.
It was as well. Again, from listening to other podcasts and the other views of it, I think it was What Culture made a very good point that those were probably the two guys that you wanted to go out there and put on a match for the fans, and that's what it was. It was like there was elements of it where it was like it was a local indie show, because it was very much established who the heel was, who the face was. And everything was ramped up to 11 in terms of the babyface nature of Cesaro and the shit heel stuff and all. So yeah, it was fantastic. But as fantastic as it was, I am going to give that back page to Bad Bunny, The Miz, Morrison, and Damien Priest on this occasion. Now, Enzo, you have come in here. Give us one really, really good or really, really bad hot take on WrestleMania week.
We're really, really bad, but funny.
You're on mute. You're on mute, Enzo. Enzo, you're on mute.
No, I'm not.
Unmute yourself, man.
That deserves a pop.
JBL would be proud.
Right, Enzo, quickly, hot take now.
For bad but funny, Mandy Rose falling during her entrance. And then for good, the triple threat between Edge, Roman, and Bryan. I really enjoyed that.
Good stuff. Cheers.
What's happened to Eli?
Oh, no, I cut the wrong guy off. I cut the wrong one off. No! Come back, Eli, come back. Always forgiven. I need to get him back in. Where is he? Oh, no. Professional as always. Filling for time here. Where is he? I hope he can come back in. I hope he's that. Right, Enzo. So you said Mandy Rose slipping on a hoop was one of the highlights. What was one of the lowlights for you?
Sorry, what you say, Kirk?
What was one of the lowlights of WrestleMania for you? You said that Mandy Rose was falling on a hoop was one of the highlights, or one of the medium bits.
If I have to say, it was all good, but one of the lowest points was the Fatal 4-Way Women's Tag. I just think everyone was slipping all over the place, and that's not their fault. So it's just because of the thunderstorm that happened.
It was a bit treacherous. It was a bit slippy dippy, to say the least. So I'm just trying to get Krangle back in here.
The women's match was chronic, man. Absolutely chronic.
I just feel
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying about the weather, but see, when you look at some of the participants in it, it's just like, come on. There's better out there.
Speaking of it, have you heard the news?
I was just about to bring that up, Enzo. You've stole my thunder.
Billy Kay released.
I thought I was going to have the big.
Billy Kay's been released along with Mickie James, Kalisto, Chelsea Green, and Wesley Blake.
Chelsea Green just signed a new contract.
She's on that release, for I read.
Oh, we need to bring that up. Right, where's this?
I was saving that for my next. That was what I'm excited for next, to see who ends up at AEW.
Well, Chelsea Green.
There's a classic example. Billy Kay has been absolutely lost in the shuffle since getting split up as part of the Iconics. The Iconics could have been in that tag match. Do you know what I mean? Peyton can work.
Yeah, Peyton wasn't even on Mania. To bring up your point, DL, I think Billy Kay's very, very small chance might be a work. She's going to come back with a slightly different name.
You reckon? You reckon they're going to go down the Heath Slater I've got kids free agent route?
Yeah,
they do that at least once a year. They did it with Drake Maverick. They did it with Heath Slater. So don't see why they wouldn't do it with her. Good point. But yeah, Chelsea Green. Oh, Samoa Joe.
Is he released?
No.
Oh, fuck me.
Right.
Samoa Joe
We
and
need to take a break here and come back because I need to go and look at this. All right. So we had to take a wee bit of a pause there due to some breaking news in that WWE have just started releasing a ton of performers, including Samoa Joe.
Fuck off.
I am trying
to
as in the Samoan submission machine.
The Samoan submission machine.
Yeah. Peyton Royce has just been released as well.
Chelsea Green, Mickie James, and other superstars released, as well as Billy Kay, Tucker, Kalisto, and Wesley Blake also amongst that just now. Now, I'm trying to see where it says Samoa Joe here. I can't find the Samoa Joe thing on the official
SC Scoop. Peyton Royce has just been announced. Peyton Royce has just been announced on the WWE Twitter.
That's the Iconic's gone. James is gone. Green's gone. Joe, they wouldn't sack Joe.
Just underneath that, they have underneath on the WWE Twitter. WWE has come to terms on the release of Samoa Joe, Chelsea Green, Tucker, Kalisto, Bo Dallas, and Wesley Blake.
Bo Dallas was just at WrestleMania as the Fiend, was he not?
But I think that's why they
apparently. What was it? Why Joe was class in commentary and could kick the shite clean out of you in the ring. Why was he?
He's soon not on commentary for Mania as well.
Sack the man and made that decision.
They've taken him off commentary. They've put in some guy called Adnan Virk, who's a Major League Baseball guy. The assumption was Joe had been cleared and that was him coming back.
I thought there was going to be the return of the Monday after WrestleMania. Boom. Out strolls Joe, going to kick the head of someone.
Yeah.
And John Laurinaitis, man. Or Laurinaitis, whatever he's called. I mean, he's back fucking 2 weeks and he starts getting these big acts.
I'm sure that it's a year to the day since there was the other releases. I'm sure there was the 15th of April last year. The Drake Maverick. And all
God, we're gonna have to put up with the AEW twats now going. Oh, Joe to AEW. Joe to the NWA. God damn it.
That is NWA would be ideal for him. I don't want Joe in AEW. I don't want him there.
Look what happened to Miro or the Superman, whatever he was called. I can't even remember. Did Joe go away to NWA or something, and then we'll all send our CVs in to the WWE.
Unbelievable.
That's madness.
For as long as we're recording, we'll try and keep we'll try and keep up with what's going on. Obviously, by the time this gets released, there'll probably be more. But
you heard it here first, folks.
You heard it here first.
And yours truly, Enzo DiSanto.
To be honest, I'm not too surprised at the likes of Peyton Royce, Billy Kay, that kind of thing. I'm not too surprised. But Joe, man, Samoa Joe, how he never got.
Was Billy Kay not endlessly entertaining though?
She was.
Right. We'll press on. We'll get this.
Right. We'll press on. We'll keep an eye on that. We'll keep an eye on.
Matt Cardano. Zack Ryder. WWE 415 says I just fired your ass. Touching on what you said, it was a year ago to the day that they did the releases, so he's turning it into his own gimmick, and obviously Chelsea Green's his girlfriend, isn't it?
Yep.
Wife.
Right.
All three.
So I don't know how true on this is, but Sean Ross Sapp. He's saying that apparently Alistair Black is rumoured to be one of them.
Well, this is a developing.
We're gonna have to press on. We could spend an eternity on this.
Not to
unbelievable. Back to the script.
Well, you say that, Not to try and overrule what WWE are doing, but I have some breaking news of my own, as we have some voice notes from Mr. Paul London. He is he's sent along. I haven't listened to these. I don't know what's in them. But
Going to be hard fuck, isn't he?
we'll see. Well, I think it's like lunchtime in LA just now, where he is. Let's
Exactly.
see if we can get this coming on.
He's just made his way on his sick brownie.
Is he going to tell us that he just got released?
Exactly what I can do, and I would be more than happy to send over a voice note, or how long you're going to be recording for.
Get him on, Chris.
Finishing up my audition in about an hour, within the hour, but I can send over a quick note or something. I'm so embarrassed. I feel like I've really let you down, and I'm sorry. I just feel really shitty about it. I want to make it up to you. But I absolutely loved my time over there. I loved wrestling for Pro Wrestling All-Star. I loved all the guys that I met there, all the girls. Everyone was super hungry, great mindset. And I didn't see any bad apples, you know what I mean? I didn't see anybody that was going to let their ego try to take over or anything. You know, I just saw a lot of young, hungry wrestlers that are in it for the right reasons. And so for me, that's so encouraging. And I think, you know, anything that I could do to help any of them or to help Pro Wrestling All-Star come back or, you know, be as, you know, stronger than it's ever been, you know, I'd love to help out. I mean, my dream would be to someday to be a part owner of the company, and that way I could have some creative control over some things and really help people out more. But hey, you never know, someday, right? Tucker was awesome, by the way. I loved working with that guy, and we've become friends. And I've kept in touch with a few of the lads out there who've sent me their matches and, you know, to get pointers or thoughts or whatever. And but big things, man. Big things for a lot of the talent there. If they just stick with it and persevere.
And that was Paul London. So breaking news: Paul London wants to be a part owner of Pro Wrestling All-Star or whatever iteration there is of that just now.
That's a very that's an absolute champ of a man. Like
15th of April 2021. This day will live in
What a
infamy.
day! What a day!
Oh,
Do you know what that deserves? Do you know what that deserves? Sorry,
this
before that wee voicemail deserves that. Hey!
Diamond DL, that's the biggest pop you'll ever get.
Oh.
At least he got a pop.
I get pops all the time, son.
Yeah,
Still hunting you, dog.
Enzo, one of your guys, like you might know this guy. He's just been released by WWE. He's called Willie Pearson. One of your guys,
Nope.
Willie Pearson.
Oh,
No.
Willie Murphy. Listen, Enzo, the only pop you're gonna get's out of a Pringles tin, so don't fucking come with us for that shit. Like, but Kirk, we were there when Paul London was here.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was just going to say. Like, what were your memories of Paul London being over here for the PWU London Calling show?
I remember the one thing that sticks out is he was in the middle of the ring and he had all of us get in the ring one side, walk across it, and he would tap the back of your thigh, and you were just to keep walking and get out the other side. So obviously everybody was like, well, what he goes, when you see someone run at someone and they do the sweep and they take their leg out from underneath them, why is a guy 6 foot 300 pounds going with one hand? He says he wants to see you really dig in and take the guy to the ground, take him down. And it was very much that he answered every question. We were asking him everything, and he just was very. You'd swear you'd known him before he came over. He was that type of guy. Like, he was class.
Yeah, just so friendly, so willing to give up advice. And you know, Enzo, you were at the seminar as well, weren't you, Enzo? Yeah.
Yeah, I was there.
The seminar where we had to turn up at 2:00 at S13, the venue that we used to train in for this seminar with Paul London. There's about 60 of us guys that came up from Dublin, Cork, places like that, and the venue wasn't open. The venue didn't open for 2 hours. So Paul London is standing in the middle of a car park on Boucher Road, Belfast, behind what used to be a B&Q, eating a Big Mac meal, telling us about how much he hates Vince McMahon, and we're all just standing there in awe, watching it. And then when we eventually get into S13, and we got the seminar, we had what, two lights around the ring,
two big spotlights,
two spotlights around the ring. But he took his time with us. He talked us through loads of stuff. It was just all about making sense of stuff that doesn't make sense in wrestling that you see in every match. It was amazing. It was amazing.
It was great, like. Right?
It was indeed.
Let's...
Right. You know what? We'll go on to the next section that I had earmarked here, which was page 3. The most titillating or exciting thing about WrestleMania week. Eli, I'll come to you first in this one. What would make it to your page 3? What would be your big fake tits of WrestleMania week?
For me, definitely it would be Ripley. Rhea Ripley. I just, in every way, shape and form, the look, the gear, the presentation, it just screams star. It just screamed that this is the one person we all studied page 3. If you're going to study this one person for their looks and for everything else, it's going to be Rhea. Like, she's only been there a few years, and she's in, Asuka clearly knows what the crack is, what she's doing, but Ripley just proved herself a star beyond all doubt. Like, for me, it was class. So
yeah,
Ripley would be on my page 3.
And DL, what would your page 3 be? What would be the thing that would get you turning that front page over for a wee ogle about WrestleMania?
Do you know what we're talking about? We're talking about a pair of tits, right? I'm talking about a pair of daft tits. Edge and fucking Daniel Bryan just smashing heads off each other. Well, Bryan had Roman Reigns and listen, you've got fucking concussions and neck problems. Just go easy, lads, and they're just boom, 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 like that. That for me, like that was one of these ones where you're just like, oh, they're doing it. They're really going for it, and it just kept going and going and going. And I think they had Reigns in a particularly tough lot, because it looked as if Reigns was like, you're really fucking hurting me here, but the crowd just ate it right up. So that would be my sort of exciting moment, because it was like 3. I hate to say this about Reigns, right? Because I've been a big detractor of him over the past few years, but since he's got the whole "I'm the head of the table," acknowledge me gimmick, like he's just soared, and he's done the best with it, and he's now probably. He is probably over with the fans. The fans will respect him, and I think those 3 in that moment they captured the whole sort of excitement and the pageantry that WrestleMania can be. Like when you're talking about moments, like that's one of the ones that will stick with you forever. They two just headbutt each other when they've got concussions and neck problems that ruin their careers, and not one fuck was given. That's incredible.
I think you have won that page 3 spot, DL. I think, for everything that happened there about WrestleMania week, the most exciting thing was seeing a main event between 3 guys that 2 years ago would probably never been in another WrestleMania main event, let alone another match at all. So to see them going at that, and not just going in the ring, but absolutely going for it, was absolutely superb. That was, I would fully agree with you that is deserving of a wee sneaky tug in the toilets when you get a wee copy of The Sun back in the day when they used to let you do that. Now, we've got one more person in the waiting room here to come in. So, Enzo, cheerio. And it is Enzo this time.
Always a pleasure, Enzo.
But Enzo makes way so that we can welcome a man close to my heart, a guy that you guys don't know as yet, but you will get to know him. It's Billy Strachan from the Scottish Wrestling Network. Billy, how are you, fella?
Welcome, season finale.
Oh, I'm in a good mood. Good mood,
Woo!
Kurt. I'm in a super mood. Let's do this.
Welcome to the show, Billy. Billy, you are in the middle of history. We have had to stop the podcast and then come back in with the news that all this talent is being released from WWE mid-podcast. Have you seen any of these releases yourself yet?
I have. It's madness, isn't it? It's just crazy who's going to be next.
Well, I mean, at the latest count, we've had, Samoa Joe, Billy Kay, Peyton Royce, Wesley Blake, Kalisto, Mickey James. Has there been anyone else in the last sort of 10 minutes that have gone kaput?
Bo Dallas. Let's not forget Bo Dallas.
Bo Dallas.
Peyton Royce, I think. I don't know if that was mentioned.
What about Otis? Is Otis
Peyton
still
Royce
in?
as well. Otis is somehow,
Is Otis still there?
but
Oof.
no, it's a
Chelsea
crazy
Green as
time.
well.
Oh, the fancy booking will be going mad.
It already is. It already is. I can already see.
You can add Tom Phillips to that list.
Todd. Oh man,
You can-
Tom Phillips.
Todd
Sorry,
Phillips.
Todd Phillips directed that.
Nah, I'm just fucking with you, but I'm getting prepared. Season finale.
But yeah, I'm already seeing on Twitter the Iconics against the Woke Queens has been pitched to Joe Cabrera OTT, which I
Very
think
good.
that would be money. That would be absolute money. So yeah, Billy, welcome to the show. It's been a bit higgledy-piggledy because of these releases. We also had a run-in from a certain Mr. Paul London via WhatsApp voice note as well, which was very, very nice of him. So although we didn't get the full interview with him, he came on via WhatsApp just a few moments ago and told us how much he loved Northern Irish wrestling and how he wants to become a part owner of Pro Wrestling Ulster, which no longer exists.
So
Well, it sounds like a great season finale.
It has been great so far. Now yourself, Billy, you are obviously the head honcho El Jefe of the Scottish Wrestling Network, and you've been putting out a lot of podcasts over the last year or so with the up and coming Scottish talent and some of the more established. And the other week there, you sort of manifested that you wanted to interview some big names in the world of Scottish wrestling, and you managed to get one of those this week in Joe Hendry.
I did. I got Joe Hendry. It was weeks of pestering him, but eventually got him on the podcast, and it was just a great time for me. I don't know for him, but definitely for me anyway.
Good stuff. And have any of the rest of the list of Billy, have they get back to you yet about coming on?
I've had a couple nibbles, just no bites yet. So I've got one. That's better than nothing. Just got to work my way through. I know WWE, they've already knocked me back for a couple, but you never know. Never say never.
I know that feeling. See when they changed their PR person, that's when it changed. You know, I was getting guys like Joseph Connors and Jordan Devlin and guys like that. Now I'm getting nothing because they changed the PR guy, and apparently 50 listens a week to a podcast doesn't cut it anymore. So
I wouldn't classify, you know, the Platinum Diamond Man and myself as nothing, but still.
No, I don't mean you guys or nothing. I just meant I'm getting nothing from the Fed. AEW since I did the Cody interview, it's been radio silence from them as well. So yeah, would you join us, Billy? We've changed the format a little bit this week. Instead of doing 3 headlines, we are building a newspaper. I'm playing the editor here, and DL and Eli are competing to see who can get their stories in the paper. So we've just done the page 3 section of it. Now this is the TV review. We're moving on to the TV review. So Eli, in fact, DL, I'll come to you first this time. What was the must-watch match of WrestleMania week for you? It doesn't have to have been from WrestleMania itself. It could have been TakeOver. It could have been anything else that was going on around about then.
I mean, Eli touched on it earlier. The Seth v Cesaro. For me, it's a toss between two, but I'm going to again come back to Edge versus Reigns and Bryan. I thought the storytelling in the match was incredible. And if you look at, you know, we're talking about the whole week, right? The whole build up to it, the promos from Edge, from Bryan in the ring were incredible. The promo from Reigns said, you know, I am going to dismantle you both and I am going to pin you both, right? You know, because there was the whole thing about the champion doesn't need to be pinned. And he was like, I will pin you both. And then there was just something symbolic for me about the way that he did the concerto to Edge and then dragged Edge on top of Bryan and pinned him 1, 2, 3. You know, for me, that was like, you know, that was incredible. And again, it just showed to me, it showed to the universe, WWE universe, like this is the guy that's going to be the top guy, the top heel for the next, you know, hopefully a couple of years, because he's on a proper hot streak at the moment, and they've got to milk that cash cow now. They really, really do. So for me, that was the match of the match of Mania, the one that I would watch again and again and again and again.
So that would be the must-watch for you. Eli, what would have been your must-watch match of WrestleMania?
Very cutting it close, Kirk. I had two. I had Kevin and Sammy, but the one that edged it out for me was Sasha and Bianca. And I'll admit I didn't know what to expect, because like Bianca's still again relatively new to this WrestleMania big match, but there wasn't one part of the match I wasn't sitting going like that. There, the hair whip, jeez, I can still hear that. The gorilla press, walking up the steps with her as if you were carrying the groceries in from the car. There was just she is so unbelievably athletic. And then she's sitting there near balling her eyes out at the start. So what I thought was, well, Kevin and Sammy we've seen, we know it's going to be solid. This quite literally, when you say, oh, what's WrestleMania history? Two African Americans, two black women main eventing title, and regardless of what you say about Sasha, careless, sometimes makes mistakes. Both of them just knocked it clean out of the park. The dive through the ropes and then the John Cena catch, get up, and you're sitting going, that's not an easy feat to do.
Yeah.
That is not an easy thing. And then next minute, I'm just gonna throw her into the ring. I just thought to myself, I'd happily watch that match over and over, because granted, it's not two men going at it. I did not care. It was just two of the best athletes, two of the best performers at that time. For me, watched a million times, would never get bored of it.
Good stuff, good stuff. And Billy, what would you say would be the must-watch match of WrestleMania week?
You know what? I wanted to give a shout out to Cesaro, Seth Rollins, but when I was hearing you guys speaking, I loved Omos and AJ Styles against the New Day. It was a very simple story, and the camera angles, the camera shots just made Omos look just incredible. So they did a good job with very limited actual in-ring work from Omos.
Yeah, I think all of those are solid picks there. I'm going to offer one of my own as well. I thought, as good as the matches on WrestleMania itself were, from a trainee or from I'm a wrestler point of view, if you watch Tyler Bate and Noam Dar from last week's NXT UK in the Heritage Cup, that match, if you're looking at it from an educational point of view, the way that they've built it, I know the Heritage Cup isn't for everybody because of the rounds and whatnot, and there's kind of a bit of expectancy with it because it's the best 2 out of 3 falls and whatever. But the way that they built their story, the way that they went from their chain wrestling, singling out limbs and whatnot to work on, to the storytelling, everything combined in it. Fantastic match to go out your way to watch. Also, Ciampa v Walter takeover stand and deliver as well was just absolutely unreal. Just absolutely going at it. Two big horses just doing that. Rampage Brown against Walter for NXT UK last week as well. Really good match. I adored the finish.
Funny you should bring up Walter and things. I've seen a lot of people online saying they weren't happy with the finish of Walter and Ciampa because he finished him with a chop. And I'm like, how long? Walter could quite literally, he chopped an announce table near in half. I was like, I've seen Walter live at OTT. I've heard the chop live. I was like, it was class that he beat him so unbelievably bad that when he hit that fine, the big slam and then boom. And it doesn't have to be a finishing move where you throw him up and do 6 cutters and pile drive the poor man. He had just simply beat him to the point where he could not get up. And I was like, that's a story right there.
Well, it's all on the build. It was all on the build to that as well, because Ciampa had stopped Walter for using his dominant hand to do the chop. So Ciampa was having to do it with his left instead of his right. But the one that took Ciampa down was the right hand one. So that's what the build was. Although if you're not looking out for that, then maybe you would say that the finish was wasted. But the fact that Ciampa did all that he could to disable the most powerful hand in wrestling and still succumb to it, that's where the story was in that.
It was brilliant.
It was awesome. But on this occasion, for the must watch, Eli, I'm going to give this one to you. On this occasion, I thought Sasha and Bayley, for all the reasons that you said about how historic it was, who were the colour, the emotion, the spots they had, just everything about it, instant classic. Yeah. So that is the one to watch. Now, the last one that I'm going to go to, I was going to do like a negative one about the wee throwaway supplement or pamphlet you get in the paper about the most rubbish bit about WrestleMania, but I don't want to go on that. We've got too much rubbish stuff going on just now with all these releases. So we'll go to tomorrow's chip paper. coming out of WrestleMania, what are you most excited for in the world of WWE or wrestling in general? Billy, I'll come to you on that one first. What would you be most excited for?
Who's going to beat Roman? Or who's going to be a contender for Roman? I mean, Edge and Bryan, they got beaten fairly convincingly, with shenanigans, of course, but who can step up to the tribal chief with his right hand man and with Paul Heyman in tow? It's going to be very interesting, especially with all these. I mean, the releases aren't really going to come into effect because it's all lower card guys, but with that uncertainty, just who is going to step up next to Roman Reigns?
Very good question.
That's a good question. DL, we'll come to you.
What I'm most excited about, it kind of tied in with the previous point. We're talking about throwaways. We're not going to talk about throwaways and stuff like that, but I'd obviously text you my theory that on night one of WrestleMania, you were going to have Charlotte return and put herself into the tag team match, and her partner was going to be Becky. And I thought that's what they were going to do, and then they were going to win the tag titles. My immediate aftermath, and I've never really been interested in it, is what's going to happen with Charlotte, and how they're going to sort of get her back over with the fans, because she's in the Roman territory just now where the fans are rejecting her, you know. And there was that time where everybody absolutely not loved her, but they could tolerate her. So I'm excited for what they're going to do with Charlotte. And obviously we've seen an insight into that on Monday Night Raw, where she came out and the promo she cut was brilliant. You know, like it was just heat, complete heat. And then the impending return of Becky Lynch. Are we going to get those two just going at it? People that have been out of the game for a while coming back. Who's going to be the number one contender? You know, that could be the short term play. So that's what I'm excited about there. And then just on touching on what we spoke about earlier on, sorry, but who's going to be, to answer Billy's question, are they going to put a mouthpiece with Cesaro after he's shown at WrestleMania, where they prove him to be a bit of a badass in terms of wrestling? Are they just going to match him to somebody similar to Heyman, and we're going to have promo after promo, and you have Cesaro elevated to take on Roman Reigns?
Who would you put them? Who would be the mouthpiece? Who would be
Corey Graves?
Graves a good idea.
Graves.
Yeah,
he's got the voice. He's got the positioning. He can do it. I would see Graves as a manager easily, and get him in with Cesaro. Go for it.
But I was thinking maybe Samoa Joe, but obviously he's been released now, right? He's been released now, but you know, think about Joe's. If he's been released after doing commentary, he's obviously injury prone, or there's something niggling where he's left, and that they see no use for him. But he could have been on the microphone, because I was watching some old promos from him the other day, the one where he turns up and everybody's in the ring, and he says to Jeff Hardy, I think the line he said to Jeff Hardy was like, "Why don't you pretend you're at a meeting and just sit down and listen to me?" You know, and like but the crowd was just like, everything he said was like, oh, him as that mouthpiece to like a Cesaro, where Cesaro just goes out, takes care of business. So that'd have been pretty tasty.
Eli, tomorrow's chip paper for you. What are you most excited to see?
I've gained torn between two. Following on what Billy said, I think Oz was the best booked big man, points for alliteration, since show. He didn't do much, but what he done, I love the whole match. I loved it because it was the entertainment of, holy shit, this man is legitimately the size of WrestleMania, and he probably carried the boat here by himself. And the New Day got him over like $1 million. I was like, that's class. But for me, I'm latched on to Cesaro. That was it. Wrestling, I liked him. I knew he was good. I knew he was a great wrestler, and it was good in the bar because Sheamus could be the mouthy one. But now I'm like, Cesaro has to get a mouthpiece. But I'm sold on him, and I want to know. I'm like, Tribal Chief versus possibly this generation's Kurt Angle, the best wrestler in the WWE, and you're sitting going wrestler versus Chief, and for me, I'm like, if he gets steam behind him, that's where I'm heading. I'm fully behind Cesaro.
Yeah. So we've got Cesaro. What to do with Cesaro? Who's going to challenge Roman? What happens in the women's division? Billy, I'm going to give it to you in this one. I'm going to give it to you. I think the Roman question is one that everyone's wanting to be answered. Are we going to see, Cesaro, Big E, step up into that title picture? Are we going to see the Usos maybe get another shot at him as well? Are we going to see Brock come back? Are we going to see Goldberg come back? Is there going to be somebody else that comes in? You know, the possibilities are endless. But I could see them keeping the Universal title on Roman, not just the next Mania, but the Mania after. You know, if they're going for the Mania in Hollywood in 2 years' time, having him go in as champion against The Rock in Hollywood, books itself.
There's only one person I want to see going against Roman Reigns in Hollywood, and you know who that is. What you gonna do, brother? I want to see him. I want to see him hulking up, and no, obviously I don't.
If we're going Hollywood, if we're going Hollywood,
the weekends were incredible. Fans have waited so long to get to WrestleMania. They've not had anything to cheer in person for the year. And then Hogan comes out to kick off Mania, and the boos rained down harder than the rain in Tampa. It was phenomenal. Anyway, that will conclude that section of the show. But Billy, the reason that we've got you on here tonight, we need you to tell us. We've been working our arses off. I've been working my arse off. DL and Eli, they have been my right-hand men throughout this whole season of hitting the headlines. You were gracious enough to let us onto the SWN network at the start of the series. You came in, you had quite rightly had some gripes about, me under-delivering on expectations. You gave us the challenge of hitting 300 views or 300 listens before night 2 of WrestleMania. I know that you've been crunching the numbers. I've been crunching numbers, trying to work it all out as well. But Billy, it is now time to let us know, did we hit the 300 listens before WrestleMania night 2?
So before I reveal the number to you, I just want to say I listened back to your episode with myself leaving that voicemail, and you know what? I think I had a bad day. I was a bit cranky. I was a terrible way to say cranky. My accent was rightly mocked. I've got this weird hybrid northern Scottish accent, which doesn't seem to be from anywhere. So I just wasn't in the best of moods. So, but I put out the challenge, and I keep to that word. So I did the numbers. You sent me what you've been getting. I've been checking what I've got, and add them all together. Got the old calculator out, the old abacus, and it was 299.
Oh. 299.
In the words of Shakespeare, bollocks.
299.
So what? One listen shot. One listen shot.
Yeah.
I'm looking your way, Enzo. You gimp.
Honestly, I told you, Chris, don't get Enzo involved. Like, nobody wanted to see that.
He probably got us minus listens, whatever that is.
But I'm not going to blame Enzo. I'm not going to blame any of the guests that came on. So some guests delivered really, really well for me. Other guests didn't. Despite me, doing my best to get some juice out of them. And I know that's maybe got me a bit of heat with some of the guys and whatnot there. But 299. I was sure we'd get the 300. I'm sure we'd got. I'm sure we got it. Did you calculate it right, Billy? I'm not diminishing what your mathematical skills are. But
I am.
Are you sure it's 299?
I did. I crunched numbers. I double checked. I triple checked.
Billy,
even there could
be €5 heading away in a PayPal account for you if you want to just bump a few numbers up there for us, Bob.
No, I'm a man of integrity, and I can't even say the word. That's how much I am of it. It's 299. I can't budge on that, unfortunately.
So for one listen, you're not keeping us on for the second season?
Them's the rules. I mean, I may have been cranky that day I gave you the challenge, but it's 300 listens or you're gone. So, unless you got any other ideas.
I'll bargain with you, Billy.
My missus is through in the living room watching The Crown. If we aren't renewed for season 2, I'm going to have to watch that shit. Like, are you sure there wasn't just one other listen? Because I can't sit and watch some shit about the royal family.
No, don't.
Well, I mean, I've watched The Crown. It's horrible. You're going to have a terrible.
$7.50 and a multi-bag of Tato, and we'll say nothing about it after that.
I've heard good things about Tato. I really have, but
unbelievable, by the way.
Right, enough talk about crisps. Right, this is hitting the headlines. It's not hitting the golden wonder. All right, Billy, are you really going to do a second season for one listen?
I'm sticking to the rules. I said 300.
Right, fine. You know what? Fine, Billy. Fine. Right. If you're not going to renew hitting the headlines for the second season, what about another podcast? What if we did another podcast? You know, I've got ideas coming out my hoop here for other podcasts. You know,
shoot, go for it. What have you got?
Off the top of my head, a kick in the balls. Right, we do a watch-along podcast of all the most famous low blows in wrestling and all the sneaky ways that wrestlers have cheated. Could do a watch-along podcast. Those seem to be really big. JR does them all the time. They're money.
God damn.
It's not quite. I mean, if I had a YouTube channel, that might make sense. But really, you're just
scrap that
loudly people's ears about kicking the balls.
Me and DL, a decade ago, we wrote a wrestling sitcom called Falls Count Anywhere, the series. What if we did that as like a radio play thing and put it out in SWN?
Was this the Archers? No. Next.
I'll agree with him on that one.
Right, here's this one's money. This one's money. The hot tag, right? The hot tag. It's wrestlers interview in wrestlers every week, but the wrestler that was interviewed the week before interviews the wrestler the week after, and then they just kind of like domino effect it. So you've got a different interviewer every week interviewing a different wrestler.
You know what? I love that idea. But I mean, I could do that myself, really. Where are you coming into that?
We're more talented.
I mean, you didn't hit 300 listens, so who's more talented?
He's harsh. He's harsh. I'll give him that.
Odie and Teven with Marty Jones.
Oh, definitely not. Next.
Tell you what, Billy, what would you like to see?
Hang on, wait. I'll get one more. What about Fly in the Coop? It'll be like Colt Cabana's old podcast, but it's me travelling to shows in Scotland and England on EasyJet flights or whatever's cheapest that the booker can put me on, talking to fellow wrestlers that are going about this, the day-to-day, just like Colt Cabana used to do. Fly in the Coop. Admittedly, the name before the concept.
Again, I quite like the idea. Unfortunately, there's no shows. So, I mean, we might swing back to that one.
Logistics is a bitch.
You know what, Billy? For the last 10 weeks, I have been busting my hump trying to come up with content. Not just, I'm happy enough to do it for, for my own self, for my own network on YouTube and Podbean and Spotify, whatever folk have been listening. I've been happy to do that. But you brought me onto the SWN network. You brought me onto the Scottish Wrestling Network, to try and get you listeners and whatnot. And I've kept up my end of the bargain. I got you 299 fucking listeners. You know what I mean? I have been bridging that gap between Northern Irish wrestling and Scottish wrestling. I've been bringing on guys like Eli Fox, one of the best up-and-coming wrestlers in Northern Ireland. Craig Dale here, who's a massive super fan of all types of wrestling. We've had Molly Spartan, we've had Emily Hayden, we've had Debbie Keitel. We've get Paul London. We get Paul London on tonight, and you're sat there. You're telling me that 299 is not enough.
And we broke news of people being sacked before anyone else. So Jesus Christ.
Well, you know what? With that, you're breaking news about people being sacked. Well, that's perfect, because you hit 299 listeners. Great, fantastic, but you didn't hold up your end of the bargain. So all I have to say from that is
no. Cooper, what you doing, you big bald bitch?
You're fired. Have a good one.
Well,
no way.
Certainly that could have went better.
That's been hitting the headlines for this season then. Thanks for listening.
Kirk, all the